Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Stock Country with We've Become Grotto. We've covered this week's X-Men titles as well as this week's Spider-Man title. Now we'll be moving on to this week's Avengers titles and miscellaneous Marvel titles. Be kicking things off with Savage Avengers number 20. So, at the end of the King in Black tie-ins to Savage Avengers, Conan was bonded with the symbiote that Kulan Goth had been torturing for eons. And had taken up residence in the what used to be the Hellfire Club mansion in Manhattan. Also, he had discovered the bar with no name and was becoming a bit of a regular there. And for those who may be unaware, the bar with no name is where a lot of your street level villain. It's the villain bar in Marvel's New York. It's a so yeah, he's drinking with the bad guys. So this is actually a pretty simple one to sum up. First off, some additional lore that I was personally unaware of with the bar with no name, but may actually be one of those well-established things that people who read other more street level titles like, Spider-Man would know. Apparently the bar with no name constantly moves because, it can only be in the same place for so long before the authorities come after it. And it's getting to be about that point. But the bartender, Alicia's heard about a score that's big enough to keep the bar open in its current location and to keep the cops paid off. So, but she explains to Rhino that he would need 4 men. Conan says that he fights a spirit of 10, but his price is a quarter stake in the take. And Alicia makes the deal that, okay, fine, the take will be split 3 ways, and that'll cover both Conan's and Rhino's bar tabs, and allow the place to stay open a little longer before they gotta move again. Turns out it's a bank robbery. It's stated that in his new home, Conan has found many black suits. Sebastian Shaw's suits, undoubtedly. But the basic plan is Rhino's the distraction, and Conan's going to do the actual thievery. So Rhino shows up, does his distracting, heads out, and runs into Spider-Man, who gets smacked around a bit by none other than Conan, who figures that, Spider-Man's costume must allow him to stick to walls. Well, I'll pay him for the costume, for his outfits, if I can stick to it. If I can walk on walls, hell yeah. But he's just like, but Spider-Man says, no, it's me. But Spider-Man claims that maybe he put a tracker on Rhino, and so anytime anytime Rhino's out and about, there he is. Before Conan is explaining to Conan that no, it's not the suit that allows Spider-Man to stick to walls, but his powers that allow him to do so. Conan does end up ripping off a patch of Spider-Man's costume, right from the ass, which Spidey webs up. But this is the first meeting between Spidey and Conan. Get the whole power responsibility bit, though Conan disagrees, saying that with great responsibility comes great rewards. With great power comes great rewards. And that, the best in life is never given and always taken. The strong cross blades, the weak fall, leaving only the fittest. But Spidey gets chucked into the subway, and Conan throws a member of New York's Finest down there as well to keep Spidey occupied so that he can make good his escape. We then have a brief interlude at the end explaining the giving us the origin of the Priest of Sickles, one of the higher-ranking hench people of Kulan Gath. Apparently, he was a World War II pilot who ended up apparently in a time, flying through a time portal. And pilot by the name of Johann Richter. He offered to serve, deal with Kulan Gath or and so Kulan Gath arrives in Ramirez, Veracruz, Mexico, where his cocaine operation, or the Priest of Sickles' cocaine operation, was recently disrupted by Conan, Wolverine, Black Widow, Elektra, the Punisher, and various others. And, at insult to injury, the Priest of Sickles himself was put through a wood chipper. All the way through. Anyway, Kulan Gath reconstitutes him. And, so his siege on this reality begins now. And the Priest of Sickles shall be Kulan Gath's fire. It's a fun issue, and it's the kind of thing I don't... It's not a complaint, it's just that it does kind of feel like the Marvel's trying to stretch Savage Avengers out as long as it can go. So stuff with Kulan Gath maybe gets put on the back burner while we have, hey, look, Conan's teaming up with supervillains because he doesn't know better. Or, hey, look, Conan and this character get along because they both like fighting. And it's just kind of, it's fun, but honestly, the Kulan Gath story is more interesting, to me at least. But yeah, fun issue. I'm still loving the book, but yeah, I think the thing that is that it kind of does feel, you kind of get the idea that if Kulan Gath is defeated, then Conan goes back to the Hyborian Age, and that's kind of the point of the title is Conan and Marvel superheroes. So yeah. Anyway, moving on, we've got Black Widow number 6. So we're kicking off a new story arc here. We're still set in San Francisco, where Black Widow had been kidnapped to and forced into a false life before a council of her enemies, or by a council of her enemies before said enemies decided to rip it all away. And their plans were accelerated by Winter Soldier, Yelena Belova, and Hawkeye looking into Black Widow's disappearance. The last storyline ended with the apparent death of Black Widow's fiance and son, and the reveal that she actually engineered the faking of their death, and has had them sent somewhere where she's unaware of their location, giving them a fresh start. But she's opted to stay in San Francisco, and Yelena's opted to stay with her. So the issue, we start off with Natasha fighting basically a giant who's working for a crime boss named Apogee. She beats him, has a brief flashback to her idyllic life, 6 days previously, she tries to stop a pickpocket, chases her down, tries to help her, but yeah, the pickpocket gets away. Yelena wants to recruit the pickpocket, though Natasha thinks, no, we're not recruiting that young. But yeah, saying we're not starting our own red room, though. Yelena says, okay, but could we start our own not red room? But yeah, so they've basically been told that Apogee is in a high rise in the penthouse, and so Black Widow goes as far up as she can, making a comment about is my life basically a video game? As every floor in the building has got basically a boss that she had to fight through. So, grappling hook all the way to the top. Cheat code. She does what she can to stop the sub bosses from getting to her, and goes after who she thinks is Apogee and his henchmen. Using a smoke grenade, she takes out the henchman promptly, and it turns out that Apogee wasn't there, but one of his high-ranking associates was. So, also there, however, is the unconscious body of the pickpocket, who Natasha decides she's taking back to base. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to John Walker, U.S. Agent, number 5. Now, first off, if you haven't watched Falcon the Winter Soldier, the hell is wrong with you? And friggin' do it. All 6 episodes are up, So, you can... For those of you who don't like the idea of watching TV shows week by week, which, to be perfectly honest, I didn't like it at first, go watch it. That said, this is in the Marvel Comics universe, not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, John Walker's a little bit different. Has a different backstory and is a little bit of a different guy. I mean, really, he's not. They wrote him exactly how it was supposed to be written. But yeah, where we left off, John and his new partner, Pizza Delivery Man, totally just Pizza Delivery Man, by the name of Mori Watanabe, have followed a coded order to a small town in rural West Virginia, underneath which they found an old decommissioned helicarrier and a monstrous creature buried underneath it. Yeah. Oh yeah, and John's been fired as U.S. agent, replaced by a guy calling himself the Saint, who also calls himself the Saint, and his sister's also trying to become the new U.S. agent and is utilizing the same serum that the Saint is utilizing, which is fucking them both up severely. So, you should begin with a fight with the Saint and U.S. Agent duking out hand to hand. We kind of have a narration by one of the residents in the small town, but the helicarrier crashes, but then there's also runs back a bit to dealing with the dragon. Turns out the dragon is part of the American Kaiju Project. Probably one of the project outtakes, as John calls it. But does some damage to the town, but it doesn't bring the town down. Back in the helicarrier, the Saint and John Walker's sister duke it out. The Saint, however, is dying because he basically had to shoot himself up twice, use the serum twice in a day, and that's really not a good idea. We get more of the Saint's backstory. His son was pulled over, but his son driving his father driving the Saints Lexus, was pulled over, and was shot and killed by the police. The Saint blamed himself for, you know, letting his son borrow the Lexus. Yeah, but at the hospital, Maury is found by the Saint's assistant. They go to the helicarrier. And she informs Maury that both USAgent and the Saint are being manipulated. The Saint at least does manage to get out of the fight with Walker's sister. But, yeah. But the fight continues between... They resume their fight. And, in the end, Walker wins because, well, he's not basically overdosing on a derivative of the super soldier serum. And no one in the town is all that happy to see him. And when talking with Val Cooper, it does kind of seem like maybe Val's just lost her job. And he basically says he's going back to being a superhero. She insists on him returning the shield. He just says, no, not going to do it. But also, he's not work. She also told him he's not working for the government because it's probably better that way. And that is where the issue and the miniseries ends. I honestly don't know. There's. I kind of feel like this is. This was like multiple pitches all just like sewn together into one, and yeah, there's just a lot going on with the series as a whole, and I don't really think it ever really took it tried to focus on all of it equally, but none of it felt like it was fleshed out just enough. You know, I mean, is it about USAgent looking into a former S.H.I.E.L.D. front company? Is it about USAgent's remaining family issues? Is it about there being a new USAgent that it kind of makes John look even keeled and even tempered? It's like this could have been a multitude of story. This could have been a multitude of story of miniseries. Instead, we all got kind of just like slammed into one thing. It's not terrible, but it's not all that great. Also, it made no effort at all to address Walker's recent appearances in Captain America, where it appeared that he was working with the new Scourge. Anyway, moving on to our final Marvel book of the week, MODOK, Head Games number 4. Where we left off, we met MODOK's dad, who also worked for AIM, and turns out that the beekeeper motif was not just kind of a happy accident; it was kind of intentional. So, MODOK and his father having their little reunion, and he basically uses some keywords to shut MODOK down and reboot his system. But we also get the truth about MODOK, about George Tarleton. That while Alvin Tarleton was, pleases his punch about having a son. Well, it turns out his son George, wasn't all that he was cracked up to be. So he made him more by making him MODOK. Then MODOK basically rewrote his programming. Rewrote his core functions from computing to killing, and Alvin thought he'd lost MODOK forever. And well, yeah, turns out that Daddy Tarleton is a shitbag too, and it's explained that the memories of MODOK's family was a program created to sedate MODOK while he was powered down in rest mode. Alvin theorizes that MODOK's subconscious must have manifested them. Some sort of deep inner desire that brought him peace. And kind of, pulls out a drill and says, "You didn't think they were real? Did anyone was capable of loving this?" But yeah, it turns out that Alvin's not living in the town alone. There are super adaptoids and other higher ups from AIM hiding throughout the town that were sent scurrying when MODOK took over. There's a rather painful flashback where MODOK and a rather painful manifestation of his memories where MODOK and his wife argue with one another over whether or not they're married because they still they want to be married, or just because it's convenient. But MODOK is captured by the super adaptoids, and the plan becomes that they're going to erase. But Alvin explains that there was always a bug in the system, and well, it's time to wipe that bug out. The bug being George Sharpton's humanity. And they go through all the stuff he's got on him. 3 vibranium buzzsaws, 2 flamethrowers, 4 pin particle proxy mines, antimatter laser cannon, 6 temporal grenades, and a cell phone. So while they're trying to do that, turns out MODOK was prepared for this. The cell phone, the case of his cell phone is made of Uru, which returns to its wielder no matter the distance. And it's also been set up to be used as a bit of a weapon, and it promptly wipes out the super adaptoids as well as the AIM scientists present. Also, George uploads his father's consciousness into his cell phone before returning to AIM to retake his position as head of the head of AIM. That is where the issue and the story ends. Also, it does appear that he's reprogrammed the super adaptoids to resemble his fictional family, and that's what he uses to attack AIM and take over. That's it for this segment of the roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Yeah. MODOK Head Games. Honestly, solid series. Bloom and Oswald, Jason Bloom and Batten Oswald wrote a fun series. It does one of the things I always appreciate with villains, at least with certain villains, making them humorous but also a threat. Humorous but competent. More often than not, when a villain is played for laughs, it's usually by showing incompetence. However, and MODOK is no exception. MODOK has been played as incompetent on multiple occasions. But he's also been shown, and sometimes he's shown as being a just full-on, absolute maniacal threat. You know, and the only amusing thing about him is the way he looks. Head Games actually kind of really did a great job, which I really haven't seen that good a job since the supervillain team up MODOK's 11 miniseries years ago, in combining the basically the crazy evil that is MODOK with the fact that he's a big, giant, floating frickin' head. And it combined the two just right. And I honestly wish this wasn't the final issue of the miniseries. But I do hope that future appearances of MODOK are going to be in this kind of had that same thing going on, where he's competent and also still amusing. However, that being said, AIM's purpose is to be, you know, punching bags with pocket nukes. So, yeah. Anyway, like I said, that's it for this part of the roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.